Hello everyone, and welcome to the webinar on how to comply member management with GDPR. The agenda for today will be as follows. We will first go through the GDPR mode available, and then we will move on how to create a GDPR agreement. Then I will show you how to create a membership with GDPR setup, moving on to the membership limitation setup in order to control pending GDPR memberships. Then I will show you how to remove member data after membership has expired, and also how to make changes to the privacy policy if ever there's a different version. And then we will end with how to set up GDPR approval state for guardians and dependents. And finally, we will end with questions and answers on your side. So under the GDPR mode, we have 4 modes available. And the modes are not applicable. As the name suggests, GDPR is not managed by the membership module. We have the mode implied, which means that the approval status will be set to accepted, and the member approval is managed elsewhere and is required. We have another mode, which is the which is the required mode, and this means that the members must first accept the terms of service in order to become members. And finally, we have a mode consent. Consent means that member can reject the terms and have their data processed differently, but still retain some or all other services. Actually, the difference in required and consent is quite subtle. Consent means that this allows the cashier to direct the member away from the POS to a kiosk where the member can review the privacy policy without blocking the POS from other customers. Okay, so under the GDPR approval states, we have four states which are pending. Pending means that a member needs to give his consent but have not yet done so. We have the state accepted, which means that the member has accepted the terms. Rejected means that the member has rejected the terms. And then finally delegated to guardian. This means that the member has delegated the consent to the member designated as guardian. Now, in order to set up the GDPR agreement, you need to log in first of all under the user personalization of entertainment. So under user personalization, your ID, your profile ID must be entertainment. Then if I go to my home page, I will see the GDPR setup and the GDPR agreement list. So the GDPR setup here, you will define first of all the number series in order to set up the agreement. The GDPR agreement actually represents the privacy policy, and it can exist in different versions. So when a member is added to a membership, the member must make an active choice regarding the privacy policy depending on the setup. That choice will have an impact on how the member can use the membership and how the data might be processed. So first of all, we set up the number series, and then under GDPR agreement list, this is where we define the agreements. So we can have different agreements per membership, or it can be only one agreement for all the memberships. So the number will be incremented automatically based on the number series setup. We have a field here called anonymize after. This will tell you like after how long you want the membership to be anonymized after expiry, like 1 year after expiry. But if ever under the different versions you have set and anonymize after, then this will be the one which will be taking the priority, the ones under the versions. Okay, so as you can see here, we have like version 1, version 2, and from here we set the activation date. Like this one was activated on the 19th and this one was activated on the 22nd. And here you can define the URL for the privacy policy where it is stored. Now moving on to the membership setup, this is where you define, under each membership setup, you define the GDPR mode and the GDPR agreement number. So as you can see here, I have set it up to consent. And here I have defined the GDPR agreement for the membership, for the different memberships available. Okay, now moving on to member creation. So I'll just create a membership so that we see when it is set up as consent, what happens. So, as you can see here, we have a GDPR approval and it has been set as pending, which means that the member has not yet approved the membership, but I can still, has not yet approved the GDPR terms, but I can yet create the member in the system. It doesn't prevent me from creating the member. So if I click OK, the membership is created, but then with a status pending. The member now needs to accept the GDPR approval. So he will normally read the terms and conditions, and here you will have a log regarding the GDPR consent log where you can accept, reject, so or makes it pending. In order to accept, we click on the button accept and a new line is created in the consent log with approval state set to accepted. So the member has now accepted the terms and conditions of GDPR, and so you can just process, you can scan the cards of a member without any problem. Now, we can set up a limitation, like if a member, for example, has not yet approved the GDPR, we can give an error message upon scanning of a membership card. And this setup is done under the membership limitation setup here. So for each membership, I have set a constraint, which is you have two constraints for GDPR, GDPR pending or GDPR rejected. So if I have a pending GDPR, I can give an error or I can give a message. An error doesn't allow me to process further, whereas a message, it will just give me a message, but yet allow the member in. So I have set it as an error where it gives me, you have a pending GDPR request error message. Or if ever the GDPR state is rejected, then we get another error message stating that access is denied because you have rejected the terms and conditions of the GDPR. So I will just show you using a member. So for example, this member, the GDPR approval is set to pending. I will just scan the member card in the POS. There. And so it doesn't allow me to process further because I have given an error message, and the error is you have a pending GDPR request. So this is how we can control, like if a member has not yet accepted the terms or if a member has rejected the terms under the membership limitation setup. Okay, so now moving on to the we will now move on to the membership data at anonymization process. So, for example, if a member wants to a member wants like to be removed from the system, they can contact you and say that they don't want to have their information in the system. So you can anonymize the member directly on the member card. You have a process to anonymize here. So clicking on member, but of course, like you can see, you cannot anonymize if a member has not yet expired. It is still a valid member. So I will take a member which has expired in order to anonymize. So this is not a member which has expired. I believe. Okay. It seems that all the members are valid. Anyway, when you will anonymize, what happens is that all the member information is deleted. So all this is blank. All these fields will be blank. You will not have any information pertaining to the member, like the address, the email, name. They are all blank automatically. But you also have a process that we can set up in the task queue to do that automatically for you. So for example, like if you set it like 1 year after expired, like once the member has expired after 2 days, the process will just run automatically and it will just delete all the members which has expired. You don't have to do it manually on all the members. This is just in case a member asks you to anonymize his data. You can just come on the member card and anonymize it manually. Else you just run the task. We have a code unit for that, which we can put in the task queue to run every day. So that it just anonymize the data of those who have expired. Next, we have, as I showed you, we can have different privacy policy. Like you can have one version and then it can change. You have another version at some point. So what happens is, for example, if I go to my GDPR list, I set a new version. Like today, I have a new version. So I set it for like today, it's active as from today, a new version. What happens, you have here a push consent request. So when you will push the consent requests, what happens, it will make all the members have GDPR approval as pending so that the members can now agree to the new terms of and conditions as it is a new version. So I have pushed the consent button, and now if I check my member, you will see the status has again changed to pending, and the new agreement version is now free. So the member needs to accept the new agreement version in order to proceed further. But of course, if ever there's a new version at the time when the membership timeframe changes, for example, when you're going to renew, upgrade, or extend, and that member has not been made aware of a new version via the manual mode, meaning via the push consent button that I have clicked, automatically when you renew, actually the GDPR approval will be set to pending. So the consent request is automatically pushed to the member upon renewal, extending, or upgrading of a membership. Now moving on to guardians and dependents. So when we have a guardian attached to a dependent, what happens is, so if I take this membership, so you will see that I have added a guardian to this membership, and we have a dependent and a guardian, and both. And as you can see, the GDPR approval has changed regarding when you are a guardian, you will have to approve a membership, plus you will have to approve a membership of a dependent also. So you will have two status. One is pending for the guardian member role, and then you have one status delegated to guardian for the dependent. So then you come again here, you accept, and so you have to accept for the guardian and for the dependent to make it valid, to make the membership a valid one. So I think basically this is all regarding the GDPR setup and the membership management. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask. A message box in your screen where you can write questions under the chat window. So you should see a chat window where you can write questions if you have any. Otherwise, you can just create a case and send it. I will then answer the questions if you have any regarding the GDPR. That should be it. Thank you. Bye.